Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Film Study. This is Ken McCusick. We're here to have another episode of That One Play. Got a really good one that I remember very well, and a good guest for you that I think is gonna really bring the moment to life. But Ed Reed's sack, forced fumble, fumble recovery, and touchdown, all on one play. Here to talk about that with me is John Zajac. John, how you doing?
I'm great, Ken. How you doing, man?
Pleasure to have you here, and this is one of the great plays that I've done over 50 of these shows, and no one got this one yet. It's just incredible. There is definitely a bias to recency bias towards plays, and a lot of the older plays didn't get taken, but this isn't that old, to be in 2004. At least I don't think of it as being that long ago. Tell us why you picked this one.
Well, all right, let's talk about this one. So, I mean, if you want to talk about going down memory lane, if you're a classic Ravens fan, I mean, this is before Flacco and before Lamar, and we've been spoiled for those times. But this Kyle Buller era was a real thing that we all had to live through, and this one's a special one just because this is all about Ed, and this is all about that defense, that 04 defense, and really kind of took us into the Flacco era from this point on.
So Bowler had been a rookie in 03, played half the season, got injured in that horrible game in St. Louis, came back at the end of the year and was able to play, but Anthony Wright at that point had the reins and wasn't giving him up.
Exactly. They made a playoff push, didn't get very far. There was a lot of hype going into this 04 season. Ray Lewis is on the cover of Madden for Madden 05. I actually grew up in the heart of the enemy. I'm from a little place called Youngstown, Ohio. It's in between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. So I was surrounded by Browns fans and Steeler fans in the same town. So it's kind of funny and weird that I became a Ravens fan, but you got to take your licks somewhere. And I've been behind enemy lines a lot over the past over the years. We'll say that.
When there's a conflict on the AFC game, who is it usually in Youngstown, Ohio?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, it depends on who's better. It's usually the Steelers because they've been better. But yeah, there's a lot of people. There's Browns bars, there's Steelers bars, same town. So it's really strange in that way. So if you're just talking about the CBS 1 o'clocks, it's usually the Steelers, just because they've been better.
Okay. All right. So we're back in 2004 again. The Ravens go down to Washington for a Sunday night game. To give us a little bit of the setup in terms of the Ravens, where they were at this point in the season.
The Ravens are sitting at 2-2. Again, like I said, a lot of hype around this team. It's Kyle Buller's, it's because of that injury. There's a lot of hype. Hey, the Ravens got a quarterback now. They've had this defense, and they've added pieces along the way. They've added Terrell Suggs. They got Adelius Thomas. They got Ed Reed. They got, I think, Will Demp's underrated partner back there with Ed. I think one of his better partners over the course of his career. So I think a lot of talent. They bring in, Deion Sanders coming off the retirement block with Ray just shouting him out saying, hey, we need you to get over the hump. So looking at that, you're looking at this amazing defense, and you still got Jamal Lewis who can just run the hell out of the ball.
Yeah. Honestly, for what we were used to at that time, meaning not having a quarterback who could win you a football game very often, and having a great defense who could keep you in absolutely every single game, it was kind of nice in 2004. And there were higher points coming in at 2004. That Jets game they went into at 5-3, came out at 6-3. The one that's famously recorded on the first version of what I would call NFL Sound FX, where they're taking direct microphones to do all the narration for a game. But this was a nice point, and beating the Redskins was a big deal at the time. They were the Redskins then, so that's okay. They're obviously the Commanders now. Tell us a little bit about what was going on in the game though, up to the point of Reed's big play.
This is one of those just absolute classic football games. The game starts out 8 straight punts between the two teams. So if you want to talk about an offensive league now, this was the complete opposite. 8 straight punts between the two teams. And then, our buddy Kyle Buller comes out and throws 3 consecutive interceptions on 3 consecutive drives. And that kind of gets, this is, towards the end of the first half. And that gets the Redskins on the board. They get 10 points out of that, which is still miraculous when you think throwing 3 picks, they're in the Ravens territory 3 times and they only walk away with 10 points.
Yeah, they ran one of the interceptions was returned to the 8-yard line, so you figure they're probably gonna get some significant points on that. One to the let's see, to the 47, but then there was a 15-yard tack on penalty which took it to the 38, and then the third one was returned to the 28. So that's pretty. That was it not atypical of this defense at the time? Was they put the offense in? The offense would put them in some bad positions. And not only that, and we kind of talked about this a little bit on the production meeting, but the offense really felt like they needed to score themselves. Sorry, the defense, that they needed to play transitional offense as soon as the football was on the ground. No falling on the football, none of that crap. That's for high school players.
You're right. I mean, you couldn't say it any better. I mean, I honestly felt better when the defense got on the field. Like at this time, watching the Ravens, it was more or less, can the offense get 2 first downs, maybe 3, so we could get a good punt and bring our defense on the field, try to pin him back, maybe get him to throw something to bait him into something, and or make a big play, make a sack, something big to kind of shift momentum, because that's all we really had offensively was our defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly provided lots of highlights from 2004, a season that was ultimately kind of disappointing. We'll get to that in a minute. So 10-0 at the half. The Ravens and Redskins come out after halftime. What I remember about the broadcast from then was they were very down on the Ravens' first half and whatnot, and saying, not having anything really nice to say about it. And broadcasters typically try to maintain an essence of excitement for the game because they don't want the ratings to drop off, obviously, towards the end. This was not really the case. I didn't feel like Al McGuire was really just telling it like he saw it at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal. So I actually was doing some research for this, and I found a mic'd up clip of like Brian Billick it's on BaltimoreRavens.com, and he's like talking, and it's kind of at the beginning of the game, and he's trying to get, he's talking to Kyle Buller. Hey, let's go get something out there. He throws, a pick, and he's like, hey, did you see that guy? And then he's yelling at the other coaches. I don't think he saw him out there after his first interception. And the second one, he's just pretty much just like hands in the air. I don't know what to do. So, going into the half, it just felt like complete deflation. There's no momentum for offensively. They're bottling up Jamal just because they're able to sit in on the run. So it's just, it's a pretty dismal first half for sure.
The Redskins had a pretty good defensive team at this time. I want to say LeVar Arrington, was he their big defensive player at the time, who was out for this game?
Yep, you're right. And yeah. And then obviously they had Sean Taylor too. So, right. I mean, that you talk about, they had huge names on defense, and they still had Clinton Portis. They had some talent for sure.
All right. So we come back from the half. ESPN's made all their commentary about how the Ravens are sucking. How does the actual play out?
So we're sitting here, third quarter, not a whole lot of action up until this point. The Redskins, they have the ball. It's 3rd and 6. They're about at the 37 yard line. And, it looks like the Ravens are going to bring some heat. Ed kind of sneaks up to the line and kind of jumps the snap. He just kind of explodes, and you can see that he had so much speed. We see him later on, especially when they win the Super Bowl. He kind of lost a little bit of that speed, but early on he was just fast. He completely blows by their running back, who is, out there blocking 46. I think it's Liddell Betts. It just looks like he wants it more. I think that's what the commentator said. After he blows right by him, and just Brunell's about to cock one up, throw it, and Ed just completely smacks it out of his hand. Ball kind of drips towards the top of the TV screen, and Ed just picks it up, scoots it in there for 22. And it's a beautiful play, and the place kind of goes crazy. You can kind of see there is some Baltimore love in Washington that day.
Yeah, it was while they had some defense, I remember it being a very easy ticket that night. And a lot of times in DC, that's not the case. Certainly if the Redskins are good, it was not the case at that time. But this was not a great Redskins team, and tickets were easily available outside. Anyway, the couple things about the play. The first thing you mentioned was how Reed, had showed some speed. And there are a few things about that. One is he had an amazing ability that I don't think we talk about as much as we should, in terms of his ability to creep up and time the snap. And it's you can call an audible, but it becomes harder and harder to call an audible as the combination of the clock running down and that safety is exactly matching, your timing to get to the line of scrimmage at the point the ball is snapped. And he knew what was going on. He could figure it out. He could figure out what the quarterback was saying. He probably could figure it out some from the cadence as well. But the other thing about this is Ed Reed as a strong safety, as he was in 2004, and a lot of people don't remember, we think of him as the incredible center fielder that he was for the rest of his career. But as a strong safety, he won the Defensive Player of the Year this year. Was a ridiculously great, arguably had his greatest year. I think 2008 was actually greater, but this was a fantastic year.
Yeah, it's insane when you look at his numbers, and I know we'll do this kind of towards the end here about that season for him and ultimately for the Ravens as well. But I mean, yeah, for sure, strong safety, and he made some big plays at the line this game. So that and that really is what kind of propelled the Ravens to even win this game, because up until that point it was hopeless. There was nothing going on.
So one more thing to say about the play is Betts is in there. And Betts makes a kind of a flagging attempt to make the tackle on the sideline. It's just much too quick. It's literally like he was trying to catch a lightning bug or something outside with a jar. I mean, he's got about as much success in doing that, where he can only use the jar. He can't use his hands or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he goes high and he just walks. It looks like he walks around him. It's like, it's insane. He just completely blow bys him. Brunell doesn't have a chance after that. It's on. So, it's a hell of a play.
All right. So that wasn't the end of the game, though. That just brought the Ravens back to within 10-7. And then Reed was not done in terms of his impact on the game.
No, just like in the first half, we had Kyle Buller throwing 3 picks on back-to-back possessions. The very next possession, we got a 3rd and 1 with Clinton Portis getting the ball. And Ed just blows by again, kind of coming in on this outside blitz and just completely blows up the play, which forces a 4th down. Go ahead if you got anything for that.
So it was 3rd and 1 play, and he takes Portis down for a loss of 2. Ed Reed coming off the edge, and in general, defensive backs coming off the edge for the Ravens, whether they're slot corners, safeties. But anybody who pinches the line of scrimmage knows that the play is a run, has figured it out. Any kind of edge move like that has always been very successful in Ravens defensive history. They've had a significantly high percentage. If there's any stutter or whatever, the play can get run down. If the play is stretched, it can get run down from the backside. If the play gets reversed, the guy is dead meat, in terms of running right into it. So it's wonderful to have a safety pursuing from the edge when he doesn't have a responsibility in coverage that he needs to take care of.
For sure. And I mean, again, just blows this play up. And this kind of sets up another huge play. Again, like you said, it's 10-7. The Redskins are forced to punt. And, unsung hero of the Ravens, BJ Sams, very underrated returner, especially in this 04 season, had some big moments for us. And this is one of them. So they go back to punt the ball. I think it ends up being a huge play. So he catches the ball, fakes the pitch to Dion. A lot of attention to Dion, even still at 37 years old on those plays there. And he fakes the pitch there and kind of creeps up that top TV screen.
I just want to point out there's 3 defenders who are coverage guys who are basically converging on Sams. All 3 of them went for Deion Sanders on the fake handoff. It's not like they had any rules or anything like that. That's Deion. He's getting the football, and just one of the great fakes of all time.
for sure. They bite it. They bite on it, and he's blowing down the sideline. Ed actually throws a nice block where he's kind of on the highlight doing a somersault after he gets in the way of somebody, and BJ Sams just kind of takes in for 78 yards, and we're up 14-10 all of a sudden, back-to-back possessions and no offense needed.
Yeah, it was a great game. In so many ways, that was a classic Ravens game of the era from exactly that point. So Ravens go on to win it. 17-10, right?
Right. And I mean, another late play was Dion having his first pick since coming back, unretiring. And that was another big play where he kind of gets Brunell hangs one up. Of course, there's Ed and Dion hanging out there. I don't know what he was seeing, but I don't know. He must have been seeing stars after that Ed strip sack, because he lobs one up there, and honestly, it looks like both of them come down with that ball. I think Ed kind of backed off and let Dion grab that one. He turns around, he high steps like 20, 30 yards. They go down, and then, couple drives later, Jamal kind of has a 26-yard gain that gets us into field goal range, give us another nice little 3-point cushion from Stover. And, that's pretty much the game.
All right. So nice drive home, nice ride home for the Ravens. Always good to come home from a road game, have it be a nice short trip like that, although may have liked to celebrate for longer. But the fate of the 04 Ravens was not as kind. They lost 4 of their last 5 games in December to eventually not make the playoffs, which was very disappointing after starting the year 6-3. And in particular, losing that 20-3 lead against Cincinnati at home in Carson Palmer's first big game. Certainly his first big game against the Ravens in terms of winning that.
Yeah, I mean, and wasn't this the season that Roethlisberger got trotted out there for the first time too? So, it's like we get in this division and we got Palmer and Roethlisberger. So, it's still for them to go 9-7 with pretty much no quarterback play is solid. But again, with this defense, Chris McAllister, Gary Baxter, Marquise Douglas, Kelly Gregg, Anthony Weaver, this team was stacked defensively. And just didn't have it offensively at all.
Yeah, basically all the players that got their start in 2002, a lot of them were the mainstays now of this team, and there were additions made in 03 like Jarrett Johnson in the draft. I'm trying to think about who else they
Bart
got
Scott.
there. Bart Scott be another good one there.
Yeah.
But now the Ravens didn't make the playoffs. Ed Reed still got the personal honors with his Defensive Player of the Year this year. Huge year in terms of interception return yards that I'm not sure if that's been eclipsed since in a single season, but it's been threatened at least once.
I think that's going to be one of those records that never gets broken at this point. The total interception return yards. I mean, this is the one of multiple hundred and some yard interception returns for touchdowns that are in his career. I think this is his first one. A couple weeks later against the Browns, where he takes 106 back to the house on Garcia. So. Just a crazy year. I think he finished with 9 picks, 358 interception return yards, 3 forced fumbles, couple sacks, 78 tackles and 6 tackles for losses.
It's who else are you going to give the Defensive Player of the Year to? I thought he really got robbed in 2008 as well, honestly, but it is what it is, and it would have been nice to see him win it once as a free safety and once as a strong safety. That really would have been the end to any discussion of who's the greatest safety of all time. Not that there really is any here in Baltimore, anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
But John, anything else that you want to say about this play before we wrap this up?
Just going back again. From Youngstown, Ohio, in the middle of enemy territory, halfway between Cleveland and Pittsburgh there. And the reason I am a Ravens fan is because Ray Lewis is on that 05 Madden cover. And, this was kind of my first chance to see the Ravens play live. This was a Sunday night game. They're not in my market. And I just remember just literally Ed Reed putting on the superhero cape and coming out there and winning this game for us, because if it wasn't for his effort that day, this was going to be another chalk it up to classic Ravens. Where's the offense today? The defense was great, but he was greater than great.
Mm-hmm. All right, John, outstanding. So such a pleasure to have you on. Any place you want to talk football with people you want to talk about?
Hey, if you're at the bar and I run into you, let's talk some Ravens football.
All right, great. Other folks out there, if you'd like to be on a Film Study short, that one play episode, something about GMing during the offseason is always fun. Franchise building, new statistic, or a new analysis tool that you have, all very cool. And I'd love to have you on to talk about that. DMs are always open on Twitter. I'll get back to you real quick. John just got to me in the last couple of days, and people are asking me still about great plays out there and what hasn't been done. If you would like to be on one of these and you just need a little bit of inspiration, I've got a whole bunch that have been done. I'll give you a big one. The Ravens won a game in 1998 where they had 13 men on the field for the final play and got away with it. If you want to do that play, it's the final game of the Oakland Raiders game, and it's Dwayne Starks. I believe it's his It's not his first career interception, but it's his first NFL start. And he got pretty much used by Jet of the Raiders, and nonetheless had the game-sealing interception at the end of the game when the Ravens had 13 men. Incredible ruse by John Gruden. It's worthy of a research project itself, this game. But if you want to take a look at that particular play or some other where you want a little bit of inspiration, just hit me up. I'll hit you with a particular play to do. John, thanks again for coming on.
Appreciate you, Ken.
And we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.